Western nations direct the global flow of money. They house the premier stock exchanges, clear the vast majority of international transactions, and issue the world's reserve currency. Yet while commanding the financial system, these same nations struggle to pour concrete, lay track, or weld steel. Look at Western naval supply chains. The United States and its allies face severe delays in constructing basic maritime assets, failing to maintain current fleets, let alone meet the ambitious targets set for nuclear submarine production. Over the last 4 decades, domestic capital migrated away from heavy industry. It flooded into the financial sector, chasing the rapid returns of speculative trading, corporate buybacks, and complex derivatives. Without that continuous reinvestment, physical infrastructure inevitably decays. Factories that once produced the structural inputs for global trade were offshored, leaving behind hollowed-out supply chains and neglected municipal systems. This creates what defense planners call the Primacy Gap. Western leaders routinely announce expansive geopolitical commitments and international defensive pacts, but they lack the domestic industrial throughput required to physically supply them. A nation cannot project power globally if it relies on foreign competitors to manufacture the basic hardware of its own defense. In 1949, China was an impoverished agrarian society, recovering from a century of foreign occupation and internal collapse. It possessed virtually no modern industrial base. This chart shows current global manufacturing value added. Today, China controls roughly 30% of the world's total manufacturing output. That single bar exceeds the combined industrial production of the United States, Japan, and Germany. In heavy metallurgy and maritime construction, the scale is absolute. Chinese shipyards currently secure over 50% of all annual global commercial shipping orders. That capacity now dictates the deployment of strategic green technologies. China manufactures the overwhelming majority of the world's solar modules, electric vehicles, and lithium-ion batteries. They accomplish this volume through vertically integrated supply chains, supported by a highly organized, heavily subsidized domestic workforce, operating end-to-end production pipelines. Western states spent decades attempting to contain this rise through tariffs and export controls. China succeeded anyway, because their economic model values physical throughput over quarterly financial returns. For 40 years, Western neoliberalism operated on a specific rulebook. Private commercial banks create and distribute credit, and they are legally obligated to seek the highest possible return for their shareholders in the shortest time frame. This diagram traces how that system naturally diverts capital. It avoids slow-yielding factories, funneling money into high-yield real estate speculation and stock buybacks. China's state-directed planning model reroutes that capital. It restricts financial engineering, forcing credit directly into physical infrastructure and manufacturing. The engine of this system is the State Policy Bank. Institutions like the China Development Bank do not answer to impatient private shareholders. Instead, they issue massive, multi-decade credit lines. That patient capital funds projects that Western private markets would reject as too slow to turn a profit, like laying thousands of miles of high-speed rail across mountainous terrain to connect rural labor to urban ports. The structure of the banking sector decides the physical reality of the country. When Wall Street steers the credit, you get asset bubbles. When policy banks steer it, you get permanent infrastructure. This illustrates how China organizes capacity through a vertical architecture, splitting the economy into 2 distinct layers. The upstream base is state-dominated. An executive agency known as SASAC controls the central state-owned enterprises, locking down the commanding heights of energy, telecom, and heavy transport. These state monopolies do not exist to maximize their own profit margins. Their explicit mandate is to overproduce baseline materials, like electricity and crude steel, providing stable, artificially low-cost inputs for the rest of the country. Those cheap state inputs feed directly into the downstream layer. Here, private enterprises engage in fierce, cutthroat market competition, leveraging low overhead to drive consumer innovation and capture global export share. But even this private competition is heavily steered. Downstream firms align their research and development with national 5-year guidelines to secure state guidance funds and regulatory favor. This hybrid structure shields a nation's vital infrastructure from global market shocks, while simultaneously weaponizing capitalist competition to absorb and advance complex technologies. These 2 completely different economic operating systems are now colliding on the geopolitical stage. Because Beijing anchored its national wealth in physical production rather than abstract financial ledgers, the Chinese state possesses a level of sovereign resilience that cannot be broken by pure financial coercion. This physical reality is driving the expansion of the BRICS coalition, structurally shifting the globe toward a multipolar order. This map shows the resulting financial shift. Developing nations are leveraging China's industrial base to bypass Western financial choke points, establishing direct, local currency trade networks that steadily erode the dominance of the US dollar. Through frameworks like the Global Development Initiative, China now offers the Global South what the West struggles to provide: concrete infrastructure loans without mandatory structural adjustments or political conditionalities. In the 21st century, geopolitical authority will not belong to the state with the most sophisticated financial derivatives. It will belong to the state that retains the physical capacity to build the future.